stop making it through the winter, but I've gotten so good at hiding as I get thin. Don't wanna take up much space, so I get the best hiding place. I'm safe where I will never escape. In the water, I am lighter than everything. I'll take off my shirt if you make all of the swimmers recognize on my way. Realize I'm not what I ate, or there be nothing to shame anymore. I've seen the shape of my shadow shrink and expand over time. It's tough to sink where it's shallow, but I'll pull it off if I try.
Well, dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange. Let me ask you a question. You never really remember the beginning of a dream, do you? You always wind up right in the middle of what's going on.
I guess, yeah.
So how did we end up here?
Well, we just came from the,
Think about it, Ariadne. How did you get here? Where are you right now?
We're dreaming?
You're actually in the middle of the workshop right now, sleeping. This is your first lesson in shared dreaming. Stay calm.
It's just a dream, then why are you...
Welcome to a special Flat Earth Sunday. How are you doing this evening, brother?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. I know it's been a bit of a break. We've been busy, but we've let things unfold with this whole blue origin, and we've seen what everybody's been saying, and here we are. It's time for our turn, for your term, Jay.
Yeah, we're not the first to cover it, that's for sure. But we're going to come with the debunks that nobody else is sharing. We're coming at this from an angle that nobody talks about, and there's been a lot of mention of the speeds, the amount of G's, the length of time this trip takes, and we're going to go through this in a scientific way, and we're going to look at things that are measurable, verifiable, and because of these physical laws of reality, we're going to be able to show that this whole blue origin thing and all the space travel, the ISS, the SpaceX, how all these things are impossible based on pressure, right? What do you think of pressure being a factor here?
So we discussed the whole pressure thing when the balloon psyop took place, and we went pretty extensively through it, and we showed how going underwater, how crazy the pressure got, and that submarines are a hoax, right? We broke it down. We've gone through that, but this is a chance for us to talk about going up into the atmosphere. So the reality in the realm that we find ourselves in was particularly made super specifically, to the point where a little bit of a degree this or that way in any of the situations, life ceases to exist. What we have here is a symbiotic virtual reality that's outlined and detailed throughout the Holy Spirit inspired scriptures, right? Not just the 66 book canon, but 300, if not more than 300 books collectively teach us how this reality was made and what it basically is. And what we find out is that we're in a voice activated supernatural biblical virtual reality. That's what we find ourselves in. And we live in the Goldilocks zone, right, of life. And what we find is that due to advancements in technology, we've been moved throughout the realm into places that we're not really supposed to be. Listen, if you can't survive without power, without heat, without anything other than just your ability to be in that reality, there's a good chance that you've been pushed by the New World Order into places to make you suffer. So when we start talking about deep water travel, now we're actually talking about high altitude travel. And unfortunately, the specifications within the realm clearly outline that it's not possible to go very high in altitude. First of all, there's no oxygen. That's the first problem that we find when we start to rise in elevation. And after that, everything just seems to get worse and worse and worse, to the point now where if we don't have a compression suit pushing on our bodies, we will simply just explode. You're going to be getting into some details tonight that just blew my mind. When I heard these things, I was like, wow, it really ultimately seems like the creation that we're in is very, very, unfortunately for now, limited. We're not flying to the moon. We're not flying into quote unquote outer space, right? So what we're going to be showing tonight is not only that, but your blood can boil. So, it's just, there's so many inconsistencies with these stories of these supposed, not only, Jason, are you going to be debunking Blue Origin, but all space travel, everything, including regular manned flights. I'm really excited for the information tonight. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you could share this podcast on any social media sites that you're involved in, whether it be Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, wherever it is where truth is being spread or wherever the conversation is being had about quote unquote outer space, we would like to have our voices heard in those spaces too. I'm excited for your presentation tonight, Jason. What do you have to say? What's on your mind? What are you thinking about?
The window that life can exist within is super narrow, and it's governed by pressure. All right. So we've got air pressure at sea level. You can actually get below sea level, and that's where the air pressure is the highest. That's actually at the Dead Sea in Israel. But then there's a gradient as you go from sea level up, and it's a very short window. And we're going to take a look at that because pressurized airplanes, they can only fly to about 45,000 feet. And that's it. After that, you have to pressurize the suit that the person's in, because you can no longer pressurize the airplane, right? Because in order for it to be strong enough to fly, it'd be too heavy to be able to be at those altitudes. And so we have these fine metrics of what makes it possible to get to certain altitudes. We're going to be taking a look at an amateur rocket that's incredible, that's got a lot of data. And we're going to be able to see how fast you have to travel in order to get up to a certain altitude, and what that maximum altitude really is. And so a lot of the stuff, revolves around like the Felix Baumgartner Red Bull Stratus jump. That's a player in this game. And then we've got the U-2 spy plane, where we actually have documented evidence of what it's like to go up into the 60,000s, approaching 70,000 feet, what that takes. And then we have the Bezos rocket, where there's a New Shepard capsule. Just the whole concept of it's ridiculous once you start looking at the actual measurements of, all right, that amount of pounds per square foot exerting force outward now. So before we were talking about a force being exerted inward with going down in the sea, but here we're talking about a force that exerts outward. Mm-hmm. And we'll be doing measurements. We'll be looking at graphs. We'll be looking at a whole bunch of tables and stuff. This is the type of podcast here that, if you really want to understand this information and be able to see and figure these things out on your own, we're going to be showing you things that are very, very hard to find. If you start researching pressure through Google, like I've been trying to, you're going to find that this is completely AstroTurf territory, where a lot of the information that you receive is gibberish. And we're going to talk about the things that are real and measurable, and the things that can just be discarded as nonsense.
Yeah. So the key things that I heard. So the key takeaways that I just heard, you mentioned some things that were real, and you mentioned some things that are fake, or we call psyops or hoaxes. Now, we could speculate, are the space missions created to perpetuate evolution, to create atheism, to create hedonism and narcissism? We could talk about that till we were blue origined in the face. But tonight I would really like to make sure that we take a look at the actual differences between what is real and what is fake. And I would like you, the viewer, to make up your own mind. Jason and I only do the research that we do, and we stand upon conclusions that we reached. And we want you to also do your research, your information, and stand upon the things that you're founded on. And then you will be able to have these conversations in public, and you'll be able to stand upon the foundation. What do you got up here, Jay? What are we looking at? Are we still on camera, or have you started the screen share?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, let's go ahead and get into this. And the first thing I just want to show people is this is a conversation that Ron and I would like to cover, but not tonight.
It's a big one.
We want to dedicate a stream to this, and you want to set people up for the reason why we want to cover this.
Well, yeah. So, Flat Earth was rolled out just over a decade ago in the mainstream narrative through channels on the internet, mainly on YouTube at the time, which was a totally different platform than it is today. And one of the main proponents of the Flat Earth being rolled out was this THC, the Higher Side Chats show. He had Eric Dubé on, then he had Jaronism on. And interestingly enough, it came across the desk on a John LeBon video. So you and I would have never heard about it. So Jaron has done an interview again back on the Higher Side Chats, talking about basically his involvement and his movement back to believing that he lives on a sphere. The flip. And it's really interesting how we were able to deduce that fundamental truth was the actual reason why. We could never figure out. We tried to postulate why would they purposely promote and roll out the Earth being flat. Well, they did it to promote and to shoehorn people into a false dialectic of two impossible versions of reality. And what they were doing is tying the Bible to the AE pressurized pizza dome version of that. And you have characters like Jaron Campanella, John LeBon, and you've got this guy from the Higher Side Chats show who are all openly anti-biblical characters working together to promote that the Earth is a sphere. And we're going to be going through the content. It is crazy. They talk about it being edited for the viewer's convenience, and they're editing out because they're hiding stuff. I was just shocked. So I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a standalone on its own. So stay tuned. If you're tuning in for Flat Earth content, we are going to go into some biblical Flat Earth content coming up with Jaron and the Higher Side Chats.
But if you want to see us bash Jaron tonight, do not worry, because that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to his stream that he did April 18th, where he's talking about Blue Origin faked, or have truthers lost discernment. So here's Jaron's coverage.
He's got Dave on there.
Of Dave's coverage of Blue Origin. So let's go ahead and go through this a little bit here.
We'll start with that.
Stop me whenever you want, brother.
Well, right off the bat, I just want to say that, we've been really against David Weiss, right? Since day one, since before Flat Earth, David was already labeled as a disinformation agent because he was pushing
New World Order shill.
Yeah,
like
he was pushing
and
the big three: Boston bombing, Sandy Hook, and 9/11. He was pushing the misinformation in our opinions on all three of those topics. And then he reverted switch, shut those three places down, and became the AE pressurized pizza. Well, he's not a pressurized pizza domer. He's what you could call an infinite pond earther. So we've been against them, but it's funny because lately I've been actually starting to agree. Since the final experiment, David was one of the first people to come out and say that he believed that it was a real trip. And he was debunking the fake flat earth channels that were supposedly debunking the final experiment, which took place. It wasn't done in some studio. So I'm actually with David Weiss. I'm actually agreeing with him. I'm going to reach out. Maybe David will come on. We can talk about his being knighted. Maybe we could have a podcast with David and go over all the reasons why we've been so upset with him for over a decade, and we can get his answers. Because I know, Jason, you actually knew David Weiss before me. You had a Zoom call and you debunked the AE map to him. And then he got Jaron on the call and you debunked it again with Jaron. And Jaron said, "Oh, you ruined my week." So we're going to be reaching out.
But
if anyone
didn't stop him. It didn't stop him.
No, if anyone knows David Weiss, please let him know. Send him a timestamp with this section. We are formally going to invite David on. We'd like to have David Weiss on. We'd like to have even Jaronism. We'd like to have everybody who wants to speak for themselves. We'd like to have them on. Let's get into the clip. I'll mute and look at the. So is Jaron created the thumb? Let's talk about the sexual innuendos and. Everybody knows that's not a massage device and why he's got that on the screen. Oh, was it David who made that? I don't want to.
Yeah, it looks like it's from David's video.
Okay, so he took a grab from David's video. I mean, they are actually promoting this stuff. It's just insane. Let's go.
It's crazy, but you know what the zero-G plane is? When people go on that zero-G plane and it makes a parabolic arc, and then you can float around. You can spend, I think it's like $5,000 or something, and you get to do this a couple times. So I'm just showing you, this is a zero-G plane, and these people are going around. So from the entire trip, we have Katy Perry. We get 30 seconds of her floating around with her friends. And if you watch, there's one edit, 2 edits, 3 edits.
That's
so let's get a pause. Did you want to jump in? You paused it before I said.
Yeah, I was just going to point out that this is a valid argument. Why do we have all these super spliced together clips? I mean, you can see in the capsule, there's cameras all around. Where's the full length footage from all the cameras for the whole duration so that a person can see everybody's reaction, not just these for the camera clips that have been spliced together?
Yeah, so we should have, it's 2025, everybody. We still don't even have a full video of the Earth spinning, right? No 24-hour rotation, which absolutely would be everywhere. David is right here. We should have the footage from launch to land, uncut. Just the raw footage. If you're using this information, this launch, to perpetuate that space is real and that we go there and that these rockets work, why would you not release the unedited full version of it?
Mm-hmm.
So dumb. Are you saying that they cut it and then they did another parabolic flight? Why not just do a parabolic flight in that capsule? Do you realize that's all they say they do? It's just a...
All right, so the whole cut of parabolic flights, this David Weiss brings up the vomit comment and then the amount of splices, making you think that this is vomit comment footage, but you wouldn't be able to put all these clips together like this from all those different takes. They weren't doing the vomit comment, in our opinion.
A large parabolic flight. They're throwing it up 60 miles and letting it fall down. But you're claiming they can't do that, so they put it in an airplane.
So we got Jaron saying they're throwing it up. They're throwing it up. So it's going to be interesting when we get into the rocket stuff. So I was lucky enough as a teenager, got into making rockets and shooting them off into the sky. Like I said, I lost every single one. I wasn't able to recover them. They're gone. Try to track them down. They're gone. The wind took the parachute and away they went. They fly really fast. They get thrown up into the sky. These Blue Origin, SpaceX, NASA launches are like the slowest you've ever seen. It's like a balloon taking off. And that's why a lot of people have said that they're balloons. We think they're using multiple different ways to fool the people through these psyops. But continue.
Yeah, we'll show people what a real one looks like coming up.
Is it we can't shoot people into the sky?
Supposed to be people in space?
4 edits, yeah. And the
it's not really space. Tell her the honest truth. It's just the Carmen line. It's a glorified carnival ride.
So hold on. Glorified carnival ride. This is the brain fry. Jaron, he's always using these manipulative word salad brain fries. Okay. They're not on a carnival ride, right? It's not real. Okay. They're not being thrown up into space. The supposed height that they reached was above Listen, everybody, above the ISS, right? Higher.
Carnival ride. Yeah, 300,000 feet. We'll be showing people that's not a carnival ride.
Edits, right? The 30-second, 6 edits, right? This is, and so what this is this is a little studio, 7 edits.
Oh, God.
A 0G plane, 8 edits.
So, Dave, all the 100 people that have ever gone up there are lying to humanity? Just because you lie to humanity doesn't mean there's 100 people that have all joined Blue Origin. What do you think? Who's paying for all that? Do they get money for lying, or are they paying money for lying? Because I'm pretty sure they pay money to go on that trip. So they're paying money to go tell lies?
What a flip. Jaron Campanella spent a decade after Jason and I completely debunked the AE map, explaining to him how the sun rises south of east and sets south of west, circling the wrong direction. We showed him that over 8 years ago, both of us, Jason and I, and we didn't even know each other. That's why we actually ended up podcasting as a team, because we were AE map debunkers. Jaron vehemently went against NASA and SpaceX and spent almost a decade calling them out for being con artists. That was all he did. He didn't debunk any of them. He just sat and watched the ISS and watched the rocket launches, said they were balloons. He never once did any flat earth proofs. Go ahead, somebody dig up some videos where Jaron debunks the sphere earth. He's talked about Coriolis, but did he debunk anything? Has he ever put anything else? Now he's actively stating that it's too big of a scam for them to pull off. And he's saying that it's money. They print the money out of thin air. For him to say the budget, Amazon, NASA, the government, if he doesn't think that they've got the budget to create the CGI and to perpetuate these lies, you have to be a brain dead NPC that has no understanding of anything to be listening to Jaron Campanella and take his word. So he's just saying, let me get this right, Jason. He's just saying that it's too expensive for them to fake this. Is that what he's saying?
Well, he's got to promote the idea that people are paying to do this.
What?
And yeah, because I mean, how else does this operate as a financial venture?
It's a TV show. Okay.
For Bezos, where, you know, if all 6 people go up and he makes it a free trip for everybody, who's going to pay for each one of these rocket launches? So they have to promote the idea that going to space is extremely difficult, extremely expensive. Only the ultra rich can do it. Yet all the people that go on board, everybody's being comped their tickets. Everything's just pro bono or for the publicity or all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, yeah, you know how much you get paid to do the halftime show at the Super Bowl?
Get paid, yeah.
It's nothing. They don't get paid because it's the largest publicity that they have to pay to perform at the Super Bowl. This is free. They are the actors perpetuating the hoax. They get paid to do this. They don't have to pay. It's crazy.
So if you look up how much it costs to take this Blue Origin thing, you're going to see that the only thing they tell you is that it's $150,000 deposit. And you'll see $150,000. Nobody will say how much it actually costs, like if this was a real thing. But you'll hear this crazy nonsense. In 2021, a seat on Blue Origin's first crewed flight was auctioned for $28 million. So they want you to believe that there was like 7,000 people that put in bids from 159 countries, and the winning bid was $28 million. So basically everybody else should be paying at least $28 million or more in order to be on this flight, unless of course Blue Origin comps the ticket for you.
Yeah, YD's got it. Yeah, exactly, Jason. Like, unbelievable. YD's got it. All of a sudden, we're supposed to believe that Jaron's found his moral compass. Everyone else is a liar except for him on the internet now, when we've documented for like 15 years, Jaron's been a scammer, right? He literally has link after link after link. He's removed them from the internet. He's paid companies to take down all of his internet scamming, his e-begging. He's e-begged for his entire career. he used to have more ways to donate to him on the screen than he did information. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, he's found his moral compass and everybody else is a liar except for, Juronism is now telling you the truth.
And they're just clipped it all together. And this is all we get.
That's bullshit.
Nine edits in 30 seconds.
Where's the rest of the footage, Sharon?
And this is what they show us.
Of course, the butterfly with their Illuminati symbolism.
Oh, it gets worse than that.
Butterflies.
So this thing now is going to fall back.
So now everything that's Illuminati reference, right? Things that truthers have acknowledged for 10 years plus all get thrown out. Oh yeah, it's
it's disinformation.
Like 666, all those.
It's all not those real
hand signs. Yeah, no.
To Earth.
It's already falling.
To get into their chairs and get in. So they're allowed to move around and play and push off the walls. This thing,
correct.
What's stopping it from tumbling?
Thrusters.
Right.
Thrusters. Show us the thrusters.
The problem is that there is zero air pressure up at the specified altitude they're at.
What are you thrusting off of, Jerry?
Off of? We'll show people what happens to a rocket motor as it goes up in elevation.
It repeated. But they always have to tell us who their master is.
Oh, right? They have to tell us
Here's
that?
her logo. I'll zoom in on it.
No, they don't have to. They do it. It's called lesser magic.
Upside down. You flip it over.
Where do you see that?
What?
Where do you see that?
Come on.
I'm just playing retarded now.
Pretty sure
Go
you just
into
made
the
that up,
zoomed
too.
in version, please. Look, everybody, it's obvious. It's clear as day. What is that? And it says Lucin. It also says Lucin on the left too, flipped up backwards. And Jaron is the one who tells people to read the Aleister Crowley stuff. And he's the one who says to do everything upside down and backwards. Walk backwards, speak backwards, do everything flipped upside down and backwards. You can clearly see the shape of the Baphomet character with the illuminating light on the head thing, the third eye, and how it's got all the symbolism there. That doesn't even look like the rocket that they're going in. Why wouldn't they
Not
put?
At all.
Why wouldn't they put?
They put the dildo rocket on? No, it's gotta be some like Star Wars rocket.
But it's not even a star. It's like a dragon's head or something, right? Or a snake, or it looks like a goat's head. I mean, the symbolism is always their downfall. And just because Jaron comes out here and says, "What? Oh, I don't see it." Like, obviously, you can clearly see. We've been saying for 8 years that everything that Jaron says, you just flip it. He literally has now gone and flipped what he said, and we're still telling you to flip what he says.
They do it all the time. Everything.
Right, all the time. Everything.
They have that all the time. So
scary. Scary what's going on in this world.
That is so bizarre. I thought, astronauts had to go through like training.
They're not astronauts. It's the equivalent of me saying that I'm a pilot. Am I a pilot because I got in the plane?
False equivalency. That's a false equivalency. Jaron, you going to higher than the ISS isn't the same thing as taking a flight across the country. How ridiculous of a statement is that?
Somewhere. When I flew down to South America, am I a pilot? Don't be so dumb. If they're calling themselves astronauts, they're not. They went on a ride. They got thrown into the sky and were there for 4 minutes and came back. They're not.
That's what what's his name said. We just a couple of guys going on a ride. The guys who went to the moon. I don't know. I can't remember which one it was. It's in that documentary that Bart Sibrel made.
And the truth about how dangerous this if it was an actual launch into this low pressure area would be so dangerous. It's insane.
Not astronauts. Okay, just because they want to promote that doesn't mean that that's the case. Or I'm a pilot. If they're an astronaut, I'm a pilot. I'm also a bus driver. I do a lot of things.
And zero gravity, and could they what is the point? They're going up and coming. Where are they?
They're not in orbit. They're not even in orbit.
They just went up and they come down, and it's crazy.
It's not crazy. It's just a glorified carnival ride. It's a reverse bungee jump.
So the other guy was, I forget this guy's name.
So they're being pulled up to outer space, right? Pulled up, not pushed.
Famous YouTuber. He's the last guy that went up.
He's not the last guy that went up. There many more went between him and her. Give me a break.
This is what he's wearing to go up to space.
Yeah.
And this is what a jet pilot, a fighter pilot has to wear.
Yeah, because they're... Oh my goodness. You don't see the difference between what the two are doing?
When he's just...
This is showing that at 1,300 miles per hour and at 45,000 feet, you need to be in a pressurized suit like this, otherwise you die. This one down here is 2,200 miles per hour at
fake.
Yeah, this is not real.
It's going,
This craft flies itself. There's nobody driving it, Dave. There's nobody driving it.
Do I have to say anything to that statement?
What about pressure?
No, hold on, Jay. Let's really drill in here. They went up into outer space and nobody flew? I don't even trust a self-driving bicycle here on Earth. You think I'm going to get into a rocket and it's just going to be driving safely up into outer space? The whole suggestion of it being an unmanned, unpiloted vehicle is ridiculous. That right there debunks the entire thing. They don't have a steering wheel. They don't have any ways of controlling it. They're just getting to the point with this whole faking of space. It's just getting into you have to be an absolute dumbed down, just fluoridated, however you want to say it, just brain dead person to believe any of this. Now you just go to outer space, fly to the moon. Nobody controls anything. It just flies all on its own, everything, Show me the computer system. Show me the coding. Show me how that all works.
This guy's flying the plane.
When he's going up for 1,300 miles per hour.
The plane is not pressurized because it can't be pressurized. All right. Otherwise, it couldn't be at that altitude, not going these types of speeds. So the big difference is being in a pressurized vessel like a commercial airplane is to an unpressurized vehicle that can go up to the higher altitudes. They say that these space capsules are pressurized. We're going to be debunking that with pressure tonight, everyone.
Per hour, 45,000 feet. They're going
right through atmosphere, 45,000 feet through atmosphere. These guys are falling back down in a pressurized module. Falling.
No air. 50,000 feet at 2,200 miles per hour, and they're just wearing jumpsuits. Right? Nobody's really thinking these things through.
You're not really thinking this through at all.
When they come down. And they're like, yeah, but I saw the curve of the Earth. This is Kobe Cotton is his name. Kobe Cotton, CC, 33.
Yeah.
Okay? And so, look, the curve of the Earth.
My son's name starts with a C, so he's also CC. Uh-oh.
But here's the same camera when he's on the ground. The curve of the ground. It's the same curve. So they're just using a fisheye lens, and people just believe this stuff.
Jaren's going to debunk the fisheye?
Like,
no, he let that one go.
Launch yourself.
You can.
Yeah, you let that one go. There was fisheye on the ground as well, everybody, if you weren't paying attention. Right? Like there, fisheye.
Believe this stuff, right? People are like, you can go see a rocket launch yourself.
You can.
And yes, sometimes they do launch real rockets, but they're not real rockets. There's never anybody on them, ever. This is what I call the Tupac rocket. It's a complete and total hologram. The amount of thrust coming out of here should obliterate everything here, but this smoke is just kind of lollygagging around. That's lifting up, 30 tons of weight.
Disappointing.
Right? But when it went up,
so let's pause it
together.
So the rockets that I built were basically like tissue paper rolls. They were as light as you possibly could make it. So the idea that David Weiss is suggesting that they could lift anything that weighed tons and tons and tons of weight is preposterous. Okay, anything that flies has to be made from the lightest steel, aluminum, airplane aluminum. It has to be the thinnest that you can possibly make it. There's parameters there that are so specific. You have to then pressurize that area, right, so that it becomes kind of like a Zeppelin, blimp-like. I'm talking about passenger flights. The idea of a rocket being heavy and launching is preposterous. The amount of thrust that it would take and side thrusters is the problem. The thing would just spin. Has anybody not shot those fireworks off that they just spin? I mean, how many times have you seen a rocket then scream back down and careen into the earth? How come we've never seen them testing this Blue Origin rocket, Jason, and having it fail? Where are all the test flights of the capsule being pressurized? Show us any of these tests. Are there anything?
Yeah, we'll go through what type of evidence is they put out, and it's really bad, really weak. I think we're almost done with this clip here from Darren.
So the fact that no one has ever been there to take a picture immediately, and NASA.
Oh, he's gonna bring this
the
up.
Blue Origin handler rushed over to the door to tell them to close it. Let's watch.
Now, why would anybody think that this means it's fake?
I saw the stars. I saw the curvature.
So Darren is right. This is not proof that they didn't go to space, right? So this whole door fiasco thing, it can just be part of a script error as far as how they wanted it televised, right? This isn't the debunk of it, but there are aspects of it that do debunk it.
Of the earth, what?
Of course, the door would have an opening from the inside or the outside. You would want people from the outside to be able to get in. You'd want people on the inside to be able to get out.
What's going to come out of her mouth, but really her heart?
And is that Jeff Bezos out there?
Right. So they went and told him, "Hey, he's supposed to let you out."
By the capsule.
It's a theatrical thing. It's a yes.
Then
It's
about 2 minutes, 45 seconds later, Jeff Bezos goes up to the capsule with a special tool to unlock the capsule.
Right. It's the tool that you would use to get from the outside to the inside.
Okay, here we go.
But the problem is the girls that just closed the door didn't lock it. So he's going to open it because it's not locked.
Open the hatch.
Now he's trying to put that tool in, and then the door opens because he's coming in anyway. Oh.
So the door bounce right there, the way it swung in and the door bounce is enough to tell a person just how lightweight this actual door is. So the whole thing, the door opening inward like that, you would need to have this open, the door going against a flange here, because to pressurize the capsule, you would need to have it swing the way it is right here. Now, it was back with the Apollo thing. They pressurized the capsule with pure oxygen, of course. Why you would do that is absolutely crazy, but they had the inward door, so with the pressure they weren't able to open the door, so then they switched it to outward doors, and this is the way NASA plays. They just have this indoor, outdoor. In space they have the flappy door, but this is the correct swing if you have a pressurized cabin. But look at airplanes. The doors swing outward and you can still pressurize an airplane, right?
Right. And he turns to her and says, "You really didn't close it." Oh yeah, she didn't really close it again. Right. What's wrong with that? Yeah, because they're on the ground. You want her to lock the door from the inside when they know they're just coming out in 5 seconds? Doesn't even make sense.
As I have said before, if they faked one part of it, then we can rightfully assume they faked all of it.
That's a good way of thinking.
Thanks for watching.
All right, so the really weird part about this is how the mainstream, everybody's talking about this, right? The whole door thing. And so the mainstream is actually drawing attention to whether or not this is a credible event, which is unique. This is, sure. I haven't seen them play it like this before. Have you?
No, but it's really easy to understand how and why. So Elon Musk is doing his best to discredit his competition. This is all being done to make SpaceX look like the real thing. And this is all staged fake nonsense, just psyops put on the masses. And they're doing it, and they're sinking the left, and Katy Perry and Gail and all the other women that are involved are, Democrat people. It's political. And you can clearly see, and they're all in on it. So the last thing I want to say before you leave is does people on the other side of the screen actually think that they don't edit things Do you really think on the other side of the screen that this whole presentation that Blue Origin put forth wasn't pre-filmed and then clipped together and edited? Everything that you see, them opening the door, Jeff Bezos falling, they were scripted. All of this was scripted. They literally debunked themselves in all of the psyops. And I could list it all, but we might get a strike. I don't know what the new rules are. Supposedly they took that censorship away, but I'm still not going to tell it to you. But they even code in that stuff because, listen, they want you to know that it's fake, and then it's on you if you still believe it to be true.
All right. Well, what do you say we take a break right now, and then when we come back, we'll get into the real footage of rockets and the real science.
Let's go.
We are back.
Tell another lie, huh? Performed by New Age Thief. Also, make sure you tune into our podcast. We're always bringing forth brand new music. Let's get into this and let's get through and actually break through their lies. And Jason, you're going to share some actual truth with everybody, some amateur rocket footage.
Yeah, so this channel here, let me show everybody. He's got other videos relating to this. This is Kip Dugradus, and so he launched a rocket, it looks like 2 years ago, and he's got all this data here. This is the stuff that we absolutely love. We want all the data. And so his amateur rocket made it to Mach 4.2 and 293,000 feet. So let's talk about this altitude of 293,000 feet here. And let's start talking about air pressure a little bit. And I want to show everybody that, so with this chart right here, I've got theoretical depths, I've got actual lowest air pressure, and then this goes up to 50,000 feet. So this doesn't go up high enough, but I want to show everybody that, so at the Dead Sea, the lowest point on Earth, we have a PSI. This is pounds per square inch, right? So there's 144 square inches in a square foot. And so the pressure is actually very, very intense, 15.5 pounds per square inch at the Dead Sea. And then when it's sea level, this is what most things are based off of, 14.7 pounds per square inch. That is a lot. So then you can see that as soon as you go up in elevation, what you have is a drop in air pressure. This is actually the way airplanes figure out their altitudes. This is how you airplane to fly at 30,000 feet. All you have to do is fly where the air pressure is 4.36 psi, and you'll be at 30,000 feet. Airplane wants to travel at 35,000 feet, then you fly where the air pressure is 3.46. So we have an extreme gradient here where we're going from 14.7 psi to the tallest thing on Earth, Mount Everest. You are at 4.36 psi, and this isn't even enough air pressure for humans and life to exist. Notice there are no trees up at that elevation. Notice that the climbers have to have supplemental oxygen because you'll die, and that's even at 30,000 feet. And so the whole concept of the pressurized pizza dome, like a lot of people, they get in flat earth, they hear, oh, you got to have a container in order to have pressure. But once a person realizes that the gradient is going from 14.7 psi to 0 at 250,000 feet. So here's our bigger scale where we've got the 14.696 at sea level, and then at 250,000 feet, 0. And I mean 0, 0, 0, 0. So what is this? Is it a vacuum? No, it's just an absolute, there is no pressure, there is no air. The thing that we call air, oxygen, nitrogen, whatever label you want to put to this gaseous thing, it doesn't exist at 250,000 feet. All right, so we'll come back and we'll address this over and over, but keep that in mind here where this, let's take a look at this equipment a little bit. So here is what real rockets look like. And so here's your first stage. And now here's a second stage. So first stage, second stage, and it's on this rail system. "41 pounds of propellant. Length 12.3 feet. Total weight 87 pounds. Ron was talking about how toilet paper rolls or cardboard, stuff like that, you want it to be as light as possible if you want it to go as high as possible.
There's some other interesting points to make here. So it also needs a stabilizer to get up to a velocity where it can actually continue to stabilize itself, as well as you can see on the bottom, there's fins. So it actually has an aerodynamic aspect to it that you're not seeing with Jeff Bezos's rocket, nor with SpaceX. What do they have? Like those, what are they called? They're like grates, metal grates. You're not seeing any of this. And yeah, like you had said, Jason, please, everybody, this is actual rocketry, right? This is the real deal. And I want you as the viewer, do you think that what you see from NASA, SpaceX, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, does it in any way match what we're about to see? Please ask yourself that.
Did you see that take off?
Gone.
So here's the slowdown footage. They show a couple launches, and then we're going to get that heads-up display. But let me turn up the volume a little bit here so that you can hear and see this thing take off in like real time. So here's your slow down footage. We can back off the sound a little. You've heard that noise before, right?
So what we're seeing here that does match out of all the different things we've seen is you actually have the smoke plume, the contrail.
First stage right here.
This is first stage. And so what they seem to do with NASA and SpaceX is launch one of these rockets, right, a smaller one, and then clip two from the CGI to the real plume that's left behind a rocket that they're actually shooting. And I've heard it, who was it, Nathan Oakley speculated that they actually do all the stuff, but with 1/3 size the scale with a small rocket. And then they try to make it look through photography. But for a rocket to launch, it has to have a stabilizer to take off, and it has to go like a bullet.
16, 20, 25.
It's going.
All right. So this view is really cool. And let everybody know that this right here represents the actual pitch data of the rocket.
What do they call it? The roll?
It represents all that. And so we have feet per second over here. We have altitude in feet. We have flight time. So -6. This is going to take off in 6 seconds. And then we have Mach, and then we have G load.
Oh,
right.
That must mean gravity, right?
Well, G is something that happens when something travels a certain distance in a certain amount of time. That's a real G.
Change in momentum in a direction.
Mm-hmm. So here comes the count. And
launch detected.
So I think I saw 16.6.
Whoa.
16.6 G load. We have flown for a total of 2.7 seconds.
Wow.
We're up to 1,200 feet per second. And we're at 1,506 feet already. Going over the speed of sound. Right, we were already at Mach 1.1.
Instantly.
So I'll run a couple more seconds here.
Booster burnout.
What? That was the end of stage 1, everybody. 9.1 seconds, and the booster is already burned out. And look at our G load. We're at pulling a -3 Gs. So the rocket is super decelerating at this point. It's pulling negative Gs. If you were in a real rocket and the first stage had ended, you hit that 16.6 Gs going up. As soon as it burns out, that deceleration right there ends up being a negative G load. This is when people red out. This is when everything rushes to your head when you're pulling negative Gs and you're sitting upright. So we only had a 10-second burn from that first stage, but our altitude, we're up to almost 15,000 feet. And listen here, there's going to be some silence for some time, but watch the altitude climb. Watch your speed going up. Or no, speed's going down right now.
30,000 feet. 35,000.
What happened? At 35,000 feet, all of a sudden, boom, the second stage went, and our G load went up. How much?
Feet.
Right.
35,000.
Yeah, like it went up to about 10.
Instantly.
And now all of a sudden, we have an even shorter burn than the first stage.
Sustainer ignition. 40,000. 50,000 feet.
You can see it's also rifling like a bullet.
Sustainer burnout.
That was it. That was it. By 70,000 feet, second stage is already completely burned out. But, I mean, we're up to 3952 feet per second.
Flying.
That's a 4.1 Mach. That's times the speed of sound. We're only 35.2 seconds into this flight. But once again, pulling negative G's because it's burned out. It's 70,000 feet. So the 70,000 feet is a threshold where there is not enough air left for combustion. Combustion's over. But watch our altitude
80,000. 100,000.
100,000 feet. This helps you visualize
120,000.
the way this rocket's moving.
Past the dog cam or whatever.
140,000.
Everybody saw as flat earthers.
So we're now under Mach 3.
160,000.
Up to 180,000 feet.
Just over a minute.
Still going Mach 2.4.
1 minute.
200,000 feet.
Oh, there's no G's up here. It's still accelerating. I mean, not accelerating, but still climbing.
Yeah, we've gone up 100,000.
230,000 feet.
240,000.
Just went below Mach 2.
So hold on, pause it. If we could get a slow-mo, something I want to put, look at how flat that is when the rectilineated camera actually is level and local. What I want to point out here, what we see taking place is the fact that there's no atmosphere, barely any. And what you're seeing is the rocket is still rising at 1,680 feet per second, and it's tumbling. It's tumbling head over tail, over and over, rolling through the sky, because it's basically flying upwards through nothing. Now, another key thing to see as we're looking out here over the horizon is we're not seeing this is West Texas. We're not seeing the ocean. We're not seeing, could we say what?
This rocket is
where are we?
Launched.
Sorry, I thought we were on Blue Origin. Excuse me. Thank you for correcting me. Where are we?
I will show you where we are.
Oh, nice.
It is right here. So
okay.
I'll show you in the footage. You're going to be able to see Pyramid Lake. You're going to be able to see Lake Tahoe. And so my best guess when you're looking as straight down as I saw was the launch was done from right around this area right here.
Okay.
There's a couple.
But you're only seeing 30 or 40 miles.
So
tops.
these crop circles,
and you're
that group right there.
That looks like a mining operation, Jason.
Yeah, something like that.
We'll have to get Dutch Sense in here to tell us what that was.
You are looking this direction across the lakes towards San Francisco and towards like Santa Cruz, this area here. But I did the research, and you could only see out here maybe to Modesto at max.
Yeah, interestingly enough, you're not able to see all the way across Earth, right? Nor are we seeing a curve anywhere besides the fisheye lens, which at some points is flat, sometimes concave, and sometimes also curved. I'm not seeing the ocean.
So this is that crop circle-ish area over here. And we're sort of, this is Pyramid Lake right here, and this is Lake Tahoe. We'll get it more right side up.
260,000.
See, it's going backwards up right now.
Yeah, it's such a weird tumble.
Backwards up.
And still traveling 1,250 feet per second upwards, everybody. This is what we're trying to say. Space travel is fake AF, okay? There is nothing to push off of. If this thing was to shoot its propellant, it wouldn't even move it anymore. It would continue to tumble at the same rate and speed that it is. That's why there's no third stage, right, Jay? What are they going to do?
Yeah, there's no air. It burned out at 70,000 feet. So this view right
Red's
here.
Rhetoric and Astronomy Live have some explaining to do. They want to join us live. We can go through this and they can explain to us why this amateur rocket is tumbling like this, yet we don't see any of this from SpaceX or NASA. They continue to burst and continue to use rockets in outer space. This thing's only 200 and only. So now we're almost at the height of the Blue Origin.
Mm-hmm.
The feet per second is slowing down.
Slowing down. We'll get to an apogee. Oh, right there.
Oh,
right when it gets to, it stops ascending. It pops its chute, and you can see the chute's been released.
The chute doesn't even do anything.
Deployment charge has fired. Max
it's
altitude.
It's just flopping there. It's not getting taut. The rope is not becoming taut.
Yeah, now you'll see that the speed will begin to pick up again as it's descending.
293,480.
The chute is not open whatsoever because there's
4.18.
no air up there.
It's not taut. It's not pulling. It's not catching anything. There's nothing to catch. There's nothing to pull off. Look, it's loose. There's nothing. This is absolute proof. Nail in the coffin. We could turn the podcast off now. Everything you've ever seen from NASA and SpaceX is fake. This proves it right here. This amateur rocket just destroyed fake space.
288,000 feet. Now it's starting to go into free fall, and it actually is going to free fall at 9.8 meters per second squared, and it will free fall. It'll accelerate until it gets down to the 70,000 foot range, where it starts to get into air again. And then that's when the parachute's going to start to open up as you go through the 60s and then hit the 50s and 40s. Then all of a sudden it'll start slowing down again. But we're 250,000 feet, no air.
No air. There's not a dome. Sorry, fake flat earthers and people that got fooled by a bad translation from the King James, who, hired, who was it? Shakespeare to edit the Bible. Okay. There's no such thing as a dome. Right. There's a gradient. You're in a virtual reality. The gradient goes from nothing. What's the Dead Sea, right? Is the lowest.
Mm-hmm.
It goes from nothing to what? 10. We got 1.
Well,
0.162.
Zero at 250,000 feet.
But there's no pressure there. There's no air. It's just void. It's empty space. It's not a vacuum sucking, pulling all of the Earth's atmosphere away. It's just
that would be a negative pressure.
There's where's the negative pressure on your scale, please?
No vacuum.
Where's the vacuum? What?
It's just zero.
Show me the minus. Obviously, there's a negative.
Vacuum. No.
What?
It's just zero. There is no negative. So you have to have a container in order to get a negative vacuum.
Right.
You
must have a dome then.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have a dome.
Zero. Yeah. So the parachutes aren't going to do anything until you start getting down into the 60, 50, 45, 40,000. Once you start getting down into this range, then your parachute's actually going to spread out, and it's going to have something to resist against. You know that your typical skydives are limited to about 10 to 12,000 feet for multiple reasons. This is where there's enough air for your parachute to work. And also, if you went higher without oxygen, you would die.
You're going to die. You can't breathe. There's no air. So where's MC Toon? Where's Fight the Flat Earth? Where are the quote unquote globe proponents? Where's Red's Retarded? Where's Astromutt, Astronomy Live? Where are these guys? Why aren't they chiming in the chat? We'll bring you on. If you got a Zoom account, you can come on and please defend your fake space. We have been waiting for over a decade for you guys to prove to us that space is real. This video right here, like I said, we can turn the podcast off, done, completed, fake space debunked, just at the untaughtness of the rope of the parachute. You can't push if that thing's not pulling. You can't push.
Apogee was northwest at a distance of 10.6.
Look. And sorry, fake flat earthers and fake globe earthers, you can't see forever. You have still a vanishing point from this altitude. right? We can't see all the way to the ocean from here, like I was trying to say about Blue Origin when you aptly corrected me with we're not on Blue Origin. This is actual real footage. And so what they do is they actually shoot these things up, film it, and then they lace together that footage, that smoke plume, in with the CGI of their fake rockets. Anyone who's seen the Blue Origin takeoff or NASA space shuttle takeoff or SpaceX takeoff obviously can tell that it's not real. It looks so fake because it is fake.
So there is no G. It does just reach this pinnacle. It's apogee. You can see that the parachute, the cord, everything, it's just hanging there. But because it still has mass, this metal is going to go down. There is no point that you can shoot metal up into the air and it just hangs out and floats there.
No.
It still has an actual mass. It's going to fall at 9.8 meters per second squared until it reaches enough air pressure, and then it's going to hit a terminal velocity based on its shape and weight and a bunch of factors like that.
It's really basic. What we've been told about reality is that we live in this atomistic, pressurized, Big Bang cosmology. And when you start to understand is no, you're actually in a totally different version of what you were taught reality to be. And the best word that we have for it is a virtual one. Things here are supernatural. Miracles take place. We're miracles. Everything about this place is miraculous. And we're just starting to have the capability to actually break things down, like this rocket launch that we're watching, showing us that only in a virtual reality could you actually have the code stop. Look, there's no stars. It's just blackness. There is nothing above us. There's nothing above this. The earth has been hung upon nothing. It's a virtual reality created for us to grow and experience life. And this is where life is actually happening, inside of a totally different reality than you were ever taught to understand. We're just starting to get the words to try to express what it is.
All right, so check it out, everybody. This is Pyramid Lake right here. This right here is Lake Tahoe. So you're looking towards the valley right here, and
Modesto.
That is, so if I
you draw a line.
I'm going to do a measurement here. This is about where they took off. So we'll do a measure. And I just want people to look in this direction right here. It's about 200 miles. So I'm going to point out a couple things. Pyramid Lake, Lake Tahoe. Then you've got this green area. Then you've got a brown strip, and then it goes green again, and then it goes brown strip, and then it goes green again, and then it's blue water out here. And what we are seeing is, here's Pyramid Lake, here's Tahoe, this is the green strip, this is the browner strip, then you're looking at the green strip again. So somewhere out here is going to be where the coast is. We are probably seeing about 200 miles.
Tops.
About 200 miles here towards Stockton.
And that will be your vanishing point, the distance to the horizon from that altitude.
Mm-hmm. That's, we're talking like almost 300,000 feet. And so and this is the highest you're going to get, everybody. This
can't
guy's
go higher.
Balanced all the factors out. You only get so many seconds that you can be accelerating, because once you get up to 70,000 feet, you burn out.
It just rolls. It just floats upwards depending on the velocity that you reached before you hit that point. Or else they would have had a third booster. They only had 2 boosters. They would have had a third and a fourth and a fifth, right?
Yeah, just keep going, right? Nope. All right. So that is real rocketry. And now we're going to take a look at things pressure wise from what is the highest flying real thing that we've been able to come across. And that is the U-2 spy plane. We've covered this before.
Yeah. What's this from 1950? They haven't even made a better version of this plane yet, but this is the one still.
Yeah, so here's a guy that Sam Ekholm. He they suited him up, and he got to fly and get the whole U2 experience. There's a whole bunch of characters that have been able to do this U2 experience, but there's some really important things. You know, check out the beginning of the video where they're talking about the plane, the weight of it, how it's a huge glider. So much so that it only has bicycle style landing gear. They don't even have landing gears out on the wings because everything about this plane is built to be absolutely as light as it possibly can be.
They have to chase it with a car, and then as it gets down to the slowest point, they have to jump out and then prop up underneath it training wheel poles underneath the wings so that they don't snap.
So let's go ahead and check out what he's got to say about the pressure suit.
So why do U2 pilots wear spacesuits? Well, put simply, if you flew to 70,000 feet without one and lost pressurization, that flight would be your last flight.
70,000 feet. If you lose pressure, that's your last flight. All right. That's it. You have to have the suit if pressure is lost, and 70,000 feet still has air pressure, right? We're not talking about the 250,000 feet where there is no pressure pushing back. You still have some residual air pressure at 70,000 feet.
There's a scientific term known as Armstrong's line, which is an altitude at roughly 60,000 feet, where the atmospheric pressure is so low that water boils at the normal temperature of the human body.
Hello. What? Did everybody just catch what was said there? I mean,
wow.
This is like, what happens? Let's go back here and hear it again.
Armstrong's line, which is an altitude at roughly 60,000 feet.
60,000 feet.
Where the atmospheric pressure is so low that water boils at the normal temperature of the human body.
Wow.
Yeah, that's big time. So, if people didn't know it, pressure affects the boiling point of water. And so temperature, water boils at altitude chart up to 250,000 feet. I just wanted to show everybody that it's pretty simple. All right, at 0 to 112. People that know Fahrenheit know that number. At 1,000 feet, it's only 210. At 2,000 feet, 208. At 10,000 feet, 192. 20,000 feet, 172. At 50,000 feet, 112. We're getting close to the human body temperature, 98.6, right? At 100,000 feet, water boils at 12 degrees. This is below freezing. Below freezing. Below freezing, people, water boils at 100,000 feet. At 250,000 feet, water boils at minus 288 degrees. Let that get into your head for a second. We're saying that at this altitude that they supposedly went up to in the Blue Origin, above 250,000 feet, well, this is really the limit. There's no air at 250,000 feet. So this is zero pressure. Water boils at minus 288 degrees Fahrenheit. This isn't Celsius. This is Fahrenheit. 50,000 feet. It's getting close to the human's body temperature, that their blood, the saliva, any fluid in your body, if you drank something, it would boil. All right, if you were exposed to 50,000 foot plus. He's saying the 60 to 63,000 range. Yeah, what altitude does water within the body begin to boil? 60 to 63,000 feet. The atmospheric pressure is so low that water within the body, including blood, begins to boil at normal human body temperature.
So
98.6.
So if you on the other side of the screen think that Katy Perry and all the rest of those women that went up into the atmosphere, if you don't think that they weren't, warned, or if any little thing went wrong, what was that Space Shuttle Challenger incident? they all would have instantly been killed. Instantly. And that's only a quarter or a third of the height that they supposedly went to. This alone, again, turn the podcast off, Jason. We are done. It's done. They would have been prepared. Are we going back to the YouTube to see a little bit more of that? Or are you moving on?
Well, I sort of want to do a little bit of bouncing here, like
sure,
with the things that they talk about here, as opposed to some of the science that is involved.
That means that if U-2 pilots didn't have these special suits and a decompression occurred while at altitude, their blood would instantly boil and lungs would be ripped apart due to the lack of pressure. So as you can imagine, these spacesuits are custom fit for every pilot. But in case you didn't know, I'm not actually a U-2 pilot myself. So what they did is they let me borrow a suit.
They call them spacesuits. It's a pressurized suit. It's all about pressure.
From a pilot who's about the same kind of size and weight as I am. Now there's a certain level of adjustments that the team here is able to make, but other than that, we just gotta hope for a good fit.
So pause it. They're not really explaining to people. So these suits are hooked up to an air compressor and they just simply push tightly on your body, holding it to the shape and size that it actually is. That's all this suit is.
Yeah.
Compression.
Your body needs to have, well, so the,
like a blood pressure, you know, when they squeeze the thing up on your arm. This is just the whole body suit that does the exact same thing.
Yeah. So high altitude sickness is something that begins at basically 8,000 feet. So this is the reason why airplanes cabins need to be pressurized to 8,000 feet, because otherwise there's severe problems that can happen as far as there's headache, nausea, shortness of breath, vomiting, and then people just pass out and die. All right. So you need to have at least the air pressure of 8,000 feet, which, if we come back here, is basically 11 psi. Once you go below 11 psi, you're starting to run into altitude sickness problems, and that's the reason why people do not live in that high of altitude places. So there's a few places where people live at high altitudes. You can check this out. Quito, I believe Quito is one of the most populated places at high altitude. It's about 9,300 feet here. But this is in a range where, unless if you become acclimated to this area and you move into it slowly, people that just go to an area like this will get very, very sick. And to just suddenly show up at an altitude like that, it can be bad.
Yeah.
So all living things. Right here, the question is, what tree survives at the highest altitude? This tree right here grows to the highest altitude, and that's 16,000 feet. All other plant life cannot exist even up to this altitude. Most plant life, the tree lines are around anywhere from 8,000 feet to about 12,000 feet is where the tree lines usually are, and that's because there's not enough air for even the plants to live at those altitudes. The altitude the skydivers can go, the highest confirmed skydive altitude, they say is 135,000 feet. This is like the Felix Baumgartner, but for most jumps, it's between 10 and 13,000 feet. So with some reaching 18,000 feet, jumps above 15,000 feet usually require supplemental oxygen. The pilot has to have oxygen. Anybody else in the airplane has to have oxygen. Once you get up into this range of the 10 to 15,000 foot range, because there's just not enough oxygen for a person to function normally, properly. Let's go back to this guy a little bit.
Now, when I say these are spacesuits, that's because they have actually been to orbit. Prior to the first shuttle mission in 1981, NASA detected a defect in the batch of suits they were making for their astronauts. It was determined that the suits couldn't be fixed in time to make the scheduled launch. So what did NASA do? They made a phone call right here to Beale Air Force Base and asked if there were any spare spacesuits that they could use. And I guess the rest is history. And that's why if you look back at the photos from the crew of that very first shuttle launch, they're wearing the U-2 iconic yellow suits instead of the NASA whites.
The U-2 is a real plane with real suits. NASA stuff was fake. They were
Make a fish?
Being the spacesuit is slightly confining. So one of the things that we actually look for when we're doing interview sorties is we do a claustrophobia check on folks.
How are you feeling, sir? Feel okay?
Yeah, feeling good. What'd you do? So why a claustrophobia check? When we're looking to hire new U-2 pilots, we want to make sure that they're comfortable in the spacesuit, comfortable by themselves in that environment at all times. So what that entails is we put them in the suit, in a helmet, in an injection seat, faced in a corner, and leave them alone for 1 to 2 hours to see how they will react. Not everybody does so well, but we want to make sure before we spend the money to train them that they know how to handle themselves.
This feels insane.
Because once you're pressurized here, you can't really move around. You just have to sit there like that. You can barely lift your arms and move them around. If you got to go to the bathroom, you're going to be in that mess. Drinking, everything is, they have to stick a straw through the helmet. This would be super confining. It would be very difficult to deal with for a lot of people, even people that aren't claustrophobic. And this is the type of suit that every single person that's going up to space, be it SpaceX or Blue Origin or anything like that, this is what they should have on if they go above 60,000 feet. That's it.
For me, one of the weirdest sensations in the suit was actually the breathing. For one, it's super loud, so you're hearing every single breath you take in and every single breath you let out. And also at the same time, it's sort of a conscious effort. Because there's a little bit of resistance every time you exhale, you have to think about it, right? It's completely unnatural to what we're used to in our everyday lives. So what does it feel like wearing the suit? I say it's equal parts badass and equal parts terrifying. On one hand, it feels like Neil Armstrong and Darth Vader. And then on the other hand, it makes you think just how vulnerable we are as humans and how the second.
Yeah, because if anything failed, any seal on this, his blood would boil. He'd be instantly dead.
Second we leave Earth, you're reliant on this technology here to keep us alive. As soon as you have the suit on, every movement,
do you see the equipment that they're moving around past here? Do you see in order to have a vacuum chamber, this right here.
As soon as you have
this is the thickness of the walls. This is the metal for the door. These are the latches. This is what it takes in order to contain pressure or have a vacuum.
You have the suit on, every movement, every task becomes about 10 times harder. As I was practicing the different emergency procedures, turning dials, moving switches, even reaching down to actually pull the pins to arm my ejection seat handle, it was tough.
I mean, there is no higher level of trust that goes into us preparing your equipment, making sure that you're ready to go, and then all those checks you do. The pilot is completely dependent on that outside crew.
Yeah.
Because they can't do any of it. Even the person who checks their aircraft, who pre-flights their aircraft, that's going to be their mobile driver.
But tomorrow, it's all based on feel and what you think is what should be best, realistically. So, what you're going to do now is you're going to locate that food port for me as best as possible. Remember, you can use the bailer bar and find it with one hand and then just kind of guide it with the other hand until you can get it in that hole.
Right here?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So if you need to drink while you're at high altitude, this is the way they have to do it. And I'm sure they got to be careful because, I mean, the pressure, things boil at very low temperatures the higher you get. So this is very complicated, very dangerous stuff. I don't know how much more of this. Let's go ahead and show everybody what it sort of looks like from 70,000 feet. Now you got an idea of what it takes to be able to go up here. Here's the view from 70,000.
You really are on top of the world here.
Well, you more than me right now.
Yeah, that is true. And I guess I'm what, 2 feet higher than you?
Yeah, a couple feet higher.
We saw what it looks like from, was it 290,000 feet? This is 70,000 feet. This is just a small fraction of what we saw with the amateur rocket.
Up until this point, for my entire life, every time I've ever looked up during the day, I've seen blue sky or clouds. But at this point, it's 70,000 feet. For the very first time, the atmosphere is now below us. So when you look up, you see the dark black vastness of space.
No stars, none of that, right? Dark blackness. This is daytime. He's looking up and it just turns to black up here. All right. You want to take another break and we come back? Well, I'll play clean up with some tabs.
Sure. Sounds great.
All right.
Way to play for me, walking home, call me on your own, say we're fine, watch them foot at tonight, convince myself you lie. I know you don't like me right now. You already drunked out. You drunked out. I know you don't like me right now. You already drunked out into my headspace. God knows I can never escape. My mind's hooked on. It's hooked on. Way to play for you tonight. You never know
We are back. And I thought we would come back to this Blue Origin flight that with Katy Perry, and just go through this a little bit, help people break this down. You've got this hatch here. They're up on this catwalk
with the Kardashians on there. Like, if that doesn't tell you that it's fake AF, I don't know what else will.
Yeah, they got to be up on the catwalk, and then they got the ring the bell ceremony. This whole catwalk setup, like the fact that they put a room up here and then they got to walk over here, like none of this is necessary. It's all a set, and then it's got to be filled with celebrities. And so when we get to the launch here, this footage actually has data like we were looking at before, and I made a spreadsheet with it. And so when you have the
termination
launch,
system is armed. T-minus 22 seconds and counting.
This looks like pure garbage here, everybody. I mean, the seams at the bottom of these fins, this is a piece of trash.
Horrible prop.
Team, could this internal?
Really poorly made.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7.
Still have a cord attached here. That's not unbuckled yet.
6, 5, 4. Command engine start. 2, 1. Ignition.
You still have things tied down here, right? Everything's all the cables are still attached right here. Nothing's disconnected yet. See, everything's still attached all the way around. And then it just goes up.
Slowly.
Now all of a sudden, everything's unbuckled. They didn't show a single thing unbuckling.
Liftoff.
It tilts right away.
New Shepard has cleared the tower.
All right, but we're finally getting some data here. So I went through, and every 15 seconds, I stopped the video and wrote down what the miles per hour and the altitude was, so that I could actually plot to see whether or not this flight could take place and the amount of time that they say it does, and how many G's and all that kind of stuff will be taking place. So, you know, here we're at 17 seconds. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 6, 7. So we're 30 seconds in, and we're at 240 miles per hour, and we're at 3,680 feet high in the air, according to them. So
look at that clip that you paused it on, the cut to.
Yeah, well, how can this be live and they're doing fadeovers, right? Where this is a transition scene. It transitioned from this rocket to this other scene.
Got further away really quick.
Supposedly live, right? Let me go ahead and show you all this. So this is the data for 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 45. This is the altitude that Blue Origin is showing. And this is their miles per hour that it's showing. And so then I've also done the calculation to feet per second. And then the feet per second times seconds, this will give you a distance, a height in feet. And so I did a little bit of a formula here where you've got the speed and then the amount of time. And so I was doing a rough calculation of how far it could have gotten in a certain amount of time. And you'll see that the formula I came up with, it actually shows that they put the time and effort into coming up with numbers that do work.
So hold on. The way that you phrase that's a little bit, let's tighten that in. Let's dial that back a little bit. So the truth of it is they came up with the schematics first, then they create the CGI from those data points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just want to let people know that if you're out there saying it got up to this altitude too fast, or just the length of the flight was too quick, or the G's would be too much, that you should sit down and actually do the work here to see that the script that they ran with as far as the acceleration is concerned, to go from 0 to 84 miles an hour in 15 seconds, you're only pulling 0.258 G. I'll show everybody the way the G-force calculator works is that you have an initial velocity, and you could have this in any, it could be feet per minute, miles per hour. And so you have an initial velocity of 0. This was 84, and the time elapsed was 15 seconds. Oh, 15 seconds. And it's only 0.255 G, right? That's not much. And then you do the same thing where 30 seconds later, they say it's going 240 miles an hour. It's only 0.364 G. 45 seconds, they say it's going 438 miles an hour. That's only 0.443 G. 1 minute, it's 556 miles an hour, only 0.358 G. And so you can see here that the miles per hour are going up right here, and then it peaks at, you got 2 minutes, it's going 1727, 2:15, it's going 2,243, and at 2:30, it's now coming back down in velocity. So it's actually pulling negative G's. And you'll see here that, let me just show everybody how you can test this out for yourself. 2 minutes, 15 seconds to get to 2,243. That's only 0.756 G, but you also have the difference between, so right here that's going 1727, here it's going 2243. So let's remember this, 1727. Where's my 17? Here it is. $17.27, and what was the other one? 20. I can grab it. 2243. And that was at 2:15, so 195 seconds. This right here, no, this is a difference of 15 seconds. I was just going from one to another. So this is actually the most severe G out of all the data that I could find, is 1.566 G. The absolute maximum on the ascent right here. So all of your 0 to these times are under 1 G. It's just this one move right here from 1727 to 2243 here, that just for that short window, a person would be pulling 1.5 Gs, which is nothing. It's not bad whatsoever. In fact, people in race cars pull way more Gs than that. So the debunk of this going to space thing is not to talk about the time involved. It's not to talk about how many Gs it would be on a person, because they have that all figured out. And it's really all about the pressure.
Yeah, those are truth or traps. Those are the different traps that they set up. And then what they do is they set up the controlled argument against it. And they'll say, those people were traveling 17,000 miles an hour and their bodies should have ripped apart at that G force. And then the controlled argument that Jason just gave will come along and publicly debunk those people, giving credence to the actual psyop that it took place, when in actuality, there's no way possible that they could ever go to those altitudes without having the different methods of safety put into place, right? It's just saying that the capsule is pressurized without actually showing the capsule being tested under those pressures and fail safes and it failing, and not providing any evidence or schematics or anything shows you that it was a psyop. It had nothing to do with the time. Listen, they have people that are very intelligent, that do the math, that just did what Jason did long before they ever create the CGI. They make the CGI off of the math and the schematics that are needed for the psyop to take place, so that they can control the argument and then set up the disinformation and the truth or traps to be debunked publicly, giving them again credence to actually pulling off these fake psyops.
No, think people. Anybody that's ever shot a gun, been near somebody that shot a gun, you hear the bang, you hear the ping when something hits the target. So a regular 9mm hits about 1,180 feet per second. AK-47, 2,350. A 50 cal machine gun round hits about 3,000 feet per second. If we go back to this chart right here, we'll see that when we check this from the 2-minute to the 2:15 mark right here, they are actually saying that they were traveling faster than a 50 caliber bullet. Faster than a 50 caliber bullet.
That part's not true. No.
That is nuts. All right. I've got some scattered tabs, but that sort of is really the gist of what I wanted to get through.
No, it was great. I really liked the presentation. We could have turned it off right when we showed the rocket, and you were able to do the comparisons and the untaughtness to the just the parachute rope. You could tell that there was absolutely no pressure. There's no atmosphere right there. It's still on the shot. This right here alone debunks any space travel. And we have an open invitation to Astronomy Live, Red's Rhetoric, MC Toon, Craig from Fight the Flat Earth, any of these, Dave McKeegan, any of these supposed globe Earth proponents would like to come on and we could walk through this information with them. That'd be great. But your presentation here did show me enough and my research and information that I absolutely know that they didn't go up in the Blue Origin supposed rocket. But I ask you, the audience member, to do your own research. Find out what you think is actual reality and put that against what we've been shown.
Yeah. All right. Make sure you let everybody know about the podcast that they might not have seen this morning.
Yeah.
And anything else that you see on the horizon coming up.
Yeah, if you could go to the tab, if you still have it, the higher side chat tab, we are going to be showing there's a concerted effort amongst people who are anti-biblical, showing us that fundamental truth, number 2, where we stated they actually created and rolled out Flat Earth so that they could tie it to an impossible map and model of reality, the Bible, and then debunk both in one fell swoop. And that was what Will Duffy and Jaron Campanella tried to do with the final experiment. And it was John LeBon that brought the attention back to the higher side chats, hangout that Jaron just did. And we're going to be going through that extensively, showing everybody that there are a group of anti-biblical characters working together, right, to debunk the truth that the earth is actually flat and stationary and still and not moving and fixed upon its foundations. And we're going to be covering this more in the detail. In the description box below, you'll find a link to my Rumble account, the Limitless channel, where I did a podcast this morning going through the news and 9 brand new songs from all different genres. Check that out if you're interested. We go into gardening and talking about how certain foods are like medicine, and we talk about so much over there. Check it out if you're looking for more content. But if not, you found enough right here on the Awake Souls YouTube channel. Excellent, excellent presentation tonight, Jason. Thank you very much for your effort and time. Shout out to YD. Shout out to the Goldsmith. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody that's just looking for truth. Thank you very much for tuning in. You're only going to hear this on the Yahawashai News Networks.